We live in an age where memory is something we buy in gigabytes. Yet for most of us, it remains a phantom, a magic trick performed by silicon and copper. Imagine for a moment that you were stripped of your own memory. Every face would be a stranger, every word a mystery, and every second a disconnected island in time. A computer, without its memory, is exactly that, a fast-thinking brain with the attention span of a lightning bolt, capable of calculating the secrets of the universe, but unable to remember the result for even a microsecond. Today, we aren't just looking at hardware. We are going on a journey into the very soul of the digital age to discover how we taught inanimate objects to remember. To understand memory, we must first understand the language of the machine. Unlike the human mind, which thrives on the nuances of maybe, almost, and sometimes, a computer lives in a world of absolute, brutal clarity. It is a world built on the foundation of two states. Imagine a light switch in a dark hallway. It is either up, flooding the room with light, or down, surrendering to the shadows. There is no middle ground. There is no dim in the realm of computing. We call these states on and off. In the language of mathematics, we call them 1 and 0. This is the binary system, the fundamental heartbeat of every digital process on Earth. Whether you are playing a high-definition video game or sending a simple hello text, you are dancing with billions of these tiny electrical pulses. When we talk about a computer's memory, we are usually referring to RAM, random access memory. It is the workspace of the computer. Think of your computer as a chef. The hard drive is the massive pantry in the back, filled with ingredients, data, that are stored away for the long term. But the RAM? The RAM is the cutting board. It is where the action happens. If the chef has a tiny cutting board, they can only prepare one carrot at a time, no matter how big the pantry is. This distinction between RAM and ROM, read-only memory, is crucial. ROM is like the printed cookbook that never changes. It tells the computer how to wake up. RAM is the living, breathing memory that holds your current thoughts, your open tabs, and your unsaved work. It is volatile, fleeting, and entirely dependent on the flow of electricity. Turn off the power, and the memory vanishes like a dream upon waking. If binary is the language, then logic gates are the grammar. How do you take a simple AND, OR, ORF, and turn it into a decision? We do it through the architecture of logic gates, specifically the most versatile of them all, the NAND gate. Imagine a series of water pipes. A NAND gate is like a clever plumbing fixture with 2 intake valves and 1 output. In the world of NAND, the output is almost always on, the water flows, unless both intake valves are turned on simultaneously. If both inputs are active, the output slams shut. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? It is a gate that says yes to everything except a double yes. Why do engineers obsess over the NAND gate? Because it is universal. With enough NAND gates, you can build any other type of logic gate and OR, not XOR. They are the Legos of the digital universe. By wiring these gates together in specific patterns, we can create circuits that don't just react to the present, but begin to process information. We are moving away from simple electricity and towards something that feels like intelligence. We are building a system where the presence of a signal in one place can dictate the behavior of a signal miles away, in microscopic terms. The real magic happens when we stop thinking of electricity as a one-way street. In a standard circuit, the signal goes from A to B, but what if we looped it back? What if the output of a gate was fed back into its own input? This is where we cross the threshold from logic to storage. By connecting NAND gates in a feedback loop, we create a circuit known as a flip-flop or a latch. This is the eureka moment in computer history. When you send a pulse into this loop, the circuit can be forced into a state, let's say on, and it will stay that way even after you stop sending the signal. It remembers that you pushed the button. This is 1-bit memory. It is the smallest possible unit of digital recollection. It is a single yes or no held in a perpetual electrical embrace. It is the moment the machine gains a past. Before this, the computer only knew the now. With the latch, it knows what happened a moment ago. It's like a tiny eternal candle that stays lit until you specifically blow it out. Now, a single bit sitting in a circuit doesn't mean much. It's just a high or low voltage. To make it useful, we have to agree on what that bit represents. This is the concept of coding. Information, in its purest form, has no inherent meaning. A red light at an intersection only means stop because we all agreed it does. If we agreed that red meant go, the world would keep moving, just differently. Computers work the same way. We use these 1 south and 0 south as symbols. In a simple world, a 1 might mean the alarm is set, and a 0 might mean the alarm is off. But as we scale up, these bits can represent anything. They can represent the color of a pixel, the pitch of a note in a song, or a letter in the alphabet. The beauty of digital memory is its neutrality. The hardware doesn't care what the bits mean. It only cares about holding them steady. It is the human-designed software that breathes meaning into the 1 south and 0 south, turning a cold sequence of voltages into a heartfelt email or a complex mathematical formula. If a bit is a single letter, a byte is a word. When we group 8 of these 1-bit memory units together, we create a byte, Y8. Historically, it was a convenient size for processing, but mathematically, it is a powerhouse. A single bit has 2 states, 0 or 1. 2 bits have 4 states, 00, 01, 10, 11. By the time you get to 8 bits, you have 2 to the power of 8 possibilities, which is 256 unique combinations. This was the magic number needed to represent the entire English alphabet, both uppercase and lowercase, plus numbers, punctuation, and a few control characters. This system, known as ASCII, American Standard Code for Information Interchange, allowed computers to speak to one another in a common tongue. When you type the letter A, you are actually telling the computer to flip a specific pattern of 8 switches. 01000001. Your memory is now holding a byte that represents that character. We are no longer just storing electrical states. We are storing human language. As we move from storing 1 byte to storing millions, we encounter a massive problem. How do we find what we're looking for? If you have a library with 1 million books but no catalog, the books are useless. You'd have to check every single one to find the one you need. In hardware, we solve this with a decoder. A decoder is a circuit that takes a binary input, a code, and activates exactly one specific output line. Think of it as a master switchboard operator. If you send the code for row 5, shelf 3, the decoder ensures that the electricity only flows to that exact spot and nowhere else. To build a decoder, we first need NOT gates, which flip a 1 to a 0, and AND gates, which only output 1 if all inputs are 1. By layering these, we create a filter. The decoder looks at the binary pattern and says, this pattern matches only one destination. This makes the computer incredibly efficient. It doesn't have to search through memory. It simply addresses it. The more memory we have, the more address lines we need. This is the logic of exponential growth. If you have 2 address lines, you can pick from 4 locations. This is why address width is such a big deal in computer specs. By using multi-input AND gates, we can build massive decoders that act like a giant GPS system for data. We are creating a sprawling landscape of memory, where every single byte has its own unique home address. This scaling is what allowed us to move from the room-sized computers of the 1940s to the smartphones in our pockets today. Picture the memory inside your computer not as a long line, but as a vast, 2-dimensional grid like a city seen from above. Each block in this city is a memory location. To find a specific house, you need 2 pieces of information: the street, row, and the avenue, column. This is exactly how high-density memory is organized. We use 2 decoders, one for the x-axis and one for the y-axis. Where the 2 selected lines intersect, a specific register is activated. At this intersection, we find the memory address register MAR. The MAR is like the "you are here" sign on a map. It holds the address that the CPU is currently interested in. It's the temporary holding pen for the where. Without the MAR, the computer would forget where it was looking before it even finished the task. Once we found the right address, we have to decide what to do with it. This is the role of the control gates and the enable signals. Each memory register is equipped with a set of electronic guards. If the right enable signal is flipped, the guards open the gates and allow new data to flow into the 8-bit storage latches. The old memory is overwritten, and a new value is remembered. If the read enable, often called the output enable signal, is flipped, the guards allow the stored data to flow out onto the data bus, where the CPU can use it for calculations. This is the rhythmic dance of computing: address right, address right, read. It happens billions of times per second, a silent, invisible ballet of electrons governed by the strict laws of logic gates. This brings us to the name, RAM. Why random access? To understand this, think of an old VHS tape. If you wanted to watch the last 5 minutes of a movie, you had to physically reel through the entire tape. That is sequential access. It's slow, and it wears out the equipment. RAM is different. Because of the grid system and the decoders we discussed, the computer can jump to any address instantly. It doesn't matter if the data is at the very beginning of the city or the very end. The time it takes to get there is exactly the same. It is random in the sense that you can pick any spot at any time without penalty. This is what makes modern computing feel snappy and responsive. It is the freedom to move through information at the speed of light. As our hunger for data grew, we hit a wall. For a long time, computers were 32-bit. This meant the address book only had enough pages to list about 4 gigabytes of memory locations. In the 1990s, that seemed like an infinite amount of space. But as we started editing high-res photos and 4,000 videos, 4 gigabytes became a cramped apartment. The move to 64-bit addressing wasn't just a small step. It was an explosion. A 64-bit system can theoretically address 18.4 quintillion bytes, 16 exabytes. To put that in perspective, a 64-bit system could address enough RAM to store every word ever spoken by every human being who has ever lived, and still have room for more. This massive address width is why modern computers can handle hundreds of tasks at once without breaking a sweat. Everything we've discussed today, from the humble NAND gate to the 64-bit address, is part of a beautiful, logical hierarchy. We didn't just invent computers. We built them layer by layer, starting with the simplest possible premise, a switch. Much of this systematic understanding of hardware is beautifully captured in literature like Code, The Hidden Language of Computer Hardware and Software by Charles Petzold. It reminds us that there is no magic in the machine. There is only clever engineering and the relentless application of logic. When we peel back the layers, we find that the computer is a mirror of human ingenuity, our desire to organize the world, to remember the past, and to calculate a better future. As we conclude this journey into the heart of memory, there is a profound lesson to be drawn from the way a computer remembers. A computer's memory is only as good as its organization. Without a clear address, without a decoder, and without a set of rules, the code, all those billions of bits are just noise. In our own lives, we are often overwhelmed by data, notifications, news, tasks, and memories. The advice I offer you is this: be the architect of your own internal RAM. Just as a computer uses a workspace, RAM, to focus on the task at hand and a pantry, hard drive to store the rest, we must learn to prioritize what we keep in our active minds. Clear the cache. Don't let volatile worries take up your mental processing power. If it won't matter in 5 years, don't give it more than 5 minutes of your RAM. Organize the address. Just as a decoder finds a specific byte, find specific slots in your day for deep work and rest. Confusion is just a lack of addressing. Define your code. What do your daily actions represent? Without a code or a purpose, your hard work is just one south and O south. Give your efforts meaning by connecting them to a larger goal. If you could upgrade your own biological memory with a 64-bit address space, would you want to remember everything? Or is the volatility of human memory, the ability to forget, actually a gift? How much of your daily life is spent sequential access, scrolling through feeds, versus random access, purposefully seeking out specific knowledge? I want to thank you for taking this deep dive into the Silicon Soul with me. It's been a privilege to tell this story. I wish you all great health, a clear mind, and the curiosity to keep looking under the hood of the world around you. If you enjoyed this journey and want to explore more of the how and why behind the technology that shapes our lives, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support allows us to keep telling these long-form stories and diving deep into the wonders of our world.